Hello iFunny, hello YouTube, and hello Bitcoiners. I want to talk about banks today, and then next week I'll be heading out to Kentucky. I'll be in Kentucky for a week, see what's up with a friend down there. And then after that, I'm going to spend another week in Delaware. Uh, it's weird if you try to picture that on a map, but I'm going to be going to Kentucky and then Delaware. Then I'm going to come back up here to Michigan for maybe like a week or two, and then go to Nebraska to see another friend. So, about banks. Money is debt, and debt is money. So you can't pay off all the debt, because if you paid off all the debt, there'd be no money left. And that's because money and debt are created at the same time when banks issue loans. So, in 1913, the President of the United States had a private meeting with bankers and investors, which led to the creation of this monster we call the Federal Reserve. Now, the Federal Reserve is not a government entity, it is a private business. It's not federal, and they have no reserves. It is essentially a private super bank that has the legal ability to print money at will whenever they want. And they do that to buy bonds of other countries. Now, if you or I tried to print our own money, we'd go to prison. But for some reason, bankers can do that. So ever since, let's just say, 1971, the US dollar has lost 99% of its purchasing power, because the Federal Reserve can print these dollars whenever they want out of thin air, and they loan it to us at an interest rate. So this private business, right? This private entity that America has no control over somehow has the ability to print our currency. They create our currency, and then they loan it to us, and then charge us interest. So we're in debt to them. Why? They don't have a military, right? Like, why don't we just default on the Federal Reserve and say fuck them? Because they don't have a military. I understand that you have to, when it comes to like China or Russia, there's the implication of like an actual threat of violence if you don't pay back certain debts. But the Federal Reserve, forgive me, is just a bunch of fucking coin clippers. You know, they're just a bunch of goat herding, coin clipping, child diddling bankers. They don't own a military, bro. I'm talking about Israel, if you haven't figured that out. But yeah, so we have the expansion of the money supply. Our dollar is worth shit now. It costs fucking $6 to get a fucking soda and a bag of chips. Why? Anyway. And then the central banking system, speaking of loans and interest, that shit is literally slavery. So once you like really dive into Bitcoin and the banking system, I'm pretty confident that you'll be of the opinion that I share, that it is immoral, it is unethical to charge interest on a loan. And let me explain why. Okay, so if there's $10 in an economy, right, and I loan out $1 to everybody, 10 people, because remember, debt and money are the same thing. They're created at the same time when you take out a loan, right? So there's 10 people, and I loan out to each of them $1. So there's $10 in existence, right? But I charge interest on all of them, 10% interest on all of them. So I expect $1.10 back from each of them, right? Where does the 10 cents come from? How did they get the 10 cents? It's made up. I made it up. I'm just demanding a yield on my money because I have money you don't. So what ends up happening is you end up defaulting. You can't pay it back, and then I end up taking collateral, right? The money is not real. I just made it up. I printed it from thin air. I don't care about the money. I don't actually want you to pay me back. I want you to default so I can take your house or your car or your business or your land. That's what I want you to do because it's economic slavery. So the landlord, for example, when he buys a house and rents it to somebody, the money he gets from that is called rent because he got the money from owning a house. Now, if I own stocks, I get paid what's called dividends every 3 or 4 months from these businesses. The money is called a dividend because that business made and then sold a good or service for a profit. And then because I own that business, I'm entitled to that. So that's called dividends, right? And let's say you buy art or gold and then you sell it later down the line in the future for more than what you paid for it. That's called capital gains. Now, whether it's rent or dividends or capital gains, right? All three of these forms of income resulted in you buying something and owning something, right? What the fuck did you buy when you take out a loan? If I loan you $10, what did I buy? Nothing. At best, I bought you. I purchased your future time and labor because until you pay me back, I own you. That's the way I see it. Because until you pay me back, every dollar you make is mine. That you're working for me. That's my money. But then what's the interest rate for? You can only charge interest ethically for 2 reasons I can think of, right? The first reason is you charge interest because inflation. The only reason why inflation fucking exists is because people like you go around loaning money and then charging interest. That's not a good argument. Banker, buy. Okay? And then the second way that I can see it's ethical to charge interest on a loan is in such a way where it's no longer even interest. So let's say I loan you money and you take that money and buy a house and then you rent it out to somebody and then you take money you're making from the house to pay me back. That's not interest. That's just rent with extra steps. Notice the money did something. You did something productive with the money. So I can demand interest on that because the money actually grew. There was a yield on the money now. Or if I borrow $100 from you and I go buy stock with it and that stock pays me dividends, if I then take those dividends and pay you back, that's not interest. That's just dividends with extra steps. And you're entitled to that interest because I took your money and made it grow. I actually invested it. Now there's a yield to actually take from, right? If I borrow money from you and I buy a plot of land and I use that land to grow food and sell the food for a profit, and then I hand you some of the profits to pay back the land, that's not interest. That's just profits from the fucking food I grew. So when you loan money and the nigga like buys ho-hos or pays rent and the money just vanishes, you're insane for asking for interest. That's the most Jewish shit ever. Cause the money didn't do it. The money's gone. Not only does he have to pay you back, which you're fine, right? Pay back what you borrowed, but then he has to pay back this interest that doesn't exist. That he literally, you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I know I make sense. So that's the way I see it. I think my rant's over though. Basically, our country's enslaved to bankers for no real reason. It's all fake. All right, peace out.